Hey everybody, Adam Savage, and I'm on stage at Cirque du Soleil's show Echo in San Francisco with Tod. How are you?
Really good. Yourself?
Very good. Behind us is one of your, well, this is the big piece of kit for this show.
It is.
It is the cube.
Yes.
And it not only dances and rotates and reconstructs itself, but it also has projection mapping on it.
It does.
That is your purview for
Yeah,
this.
so I'm the head of lighting and video on the show.
Okay.
And of all the Cirque du Soleil shows, we've definitely got the most projection.
Oh, really?
So quite a few of the shows have projection, but almost all of the show we are projecting some form of element onto the cube. And with it moving, that's kind of our biggest thing, is allowing it to be able to be a feature of the show, but also stick to that surface as it moves around the stage and changes.
Now, when you say stick to that surface, is it dead reckoning? Do the projectors know what marks this is going to hit, or is it dynamic and it's actively watching where the cube is?
It is dynamic.
Wow.
So we have a bunch of infrared dots throughout the cube, and it's the same system that we use for following performers on stage. So we have 28 cameras.
Following performers on stage?
So we have 28 cameras around the room.
Yeah.
And they all have infrared trackers in their costumes. So the system at the top of a city, we calibrate. And so based on, we have 4 in the stage. And once the system knows where the stage is, it can start to build the environment around that.
Oh my goodness.
So all of the cameras work out where they are. And then based off that, they can follow the infrared buds around the room and know where they are at any one point.
So you can have a digital representation of everything that's happening on stage live during the show and know where every
Absolutely.
human and set piece is.
Yep. So it's only a few of the performers, our main characters, that are tracked, but in theory we could scale that to everyone. And we can show you after this a bit of a live view of what we see in the 3D space. But amongst that, you see the cube as an element.
So I noticed, it took me a while to find your follow spot operators,
Yes.
because they're well hidden in your trees. But are there also automated lights that follow performers
There
from
are.
those? Wow.
So all of the shows in the past have had follow spot operators, and we always like that. It provides a really nice live element.
Yeah.
But now we are starting to do a lot more with tracking the performers with moving lights as well, and that's all done digitally. So we can tweak a few elements depending on how fast someone's moving and that sort of thing.
Right.
But you would have seen, like, we've got a bungee straps act. So that's our hardest one to work with, because as much as we can build a bit of prediction into the system, so if someone's moving fast, the light will keep up with them. You've got a performer that's going to accelerate, but then very quickly decelerate and head straight back in the other direction. And the software can't quite predict for that sort of motion.
Now, when you say this is the most projection happening among the companies of Cirque du Soleil, I would assume that when a technology like that comes in, you guys experiment with it in every way that you possibly can, and you're learning things on this show that will go into future shows. Is
Absolutely.
that really how the pipeline works?
Yeah, so a couple of the other shows in the past, like Corteo, had the same tracking system that we do. So they utilize that for for performer tracking. And actually a lot of what they experienced was fed back to the developers of the software. So by the time it got to us, we actually had a lot more capability than they did. They were having to build a lot of things on the fly.
Oh, amazing.
And we're doing more and more with that here. So different acts come in, so we produce new content, and so it's always developing.
Man, I mean, my theater days were over 3 decades ago, but it was so analog back then. Even with the digital stuff we were doing, I can't imagine being able to have real-time mapping of everything that's going on.
And it's funny because we've all come from that background, and we like to do as much as we can personally.
Of course.
And like follow spotting, it's great fun. But we're trying to do as much of a blend. So as many of the cues that we can, we still want to take ourselves.
Yeah.
But there are some things that are just done better with the technology we have access to now.
Okay, so this cube, it moves, it rotates,
Yep.
it constructs, it deconstructs. What is some of the harder things for you to deal with while the cube performances happen?
I mean, for us, and given that we're in San Francisco right now, we have to do a calibration once a week. But we've already seen, we've experienced here, we get earthquakes. So we have 10 projectors around the room, and they are all very precisely focused because they're all
and the little
overlapping.
tiny earthquakes that happen all the time here, they throw your stuff off.
We see it. So because it's not just one projector at the surface, it's multiple that are blended together. And just a small tremor or someone grabbing onto one of the posts is enough to give us that little shift. So there's little bits that we can do on the fly, but sometimes we need to do a full recalibration of everything.
So I could imagine a situation in which a show happens and nothing went wrong, but you can tell, you know what, we're going to need to check the calibration on these things.
Absolutely. So,
Fascinating.
and I mean, at the same time, even if some of our tracking buds drop out, we will start to see the projection shift slightly,
Right.
Because it starts to lose that position.
Well, I mean, and that's like one of the reasons we all stayed analog 30 years ago is because failure modes could be, lead to black on stage, right?
Absolutely.
So you guys, do you build in technological like canaries in a coal mine to help you know that things are going smoothly?
Sort of like, and a lot of it is you don't know the problem's there until you've hit it,
Yeah,
and
of
then it's looking back and going, hey, what can we do to fix this next
Sure.
time? But a lot of that is done in our pre-show checks, and we have a lot of contingencies built into our system. As much as anything, though, that's for if the show version changes on the fly, then we need to adapt and move with something else. And that is one thing that we love still having the follow spots is actually a lot of the time they are our get out of jail free card. If something is failing on stage, you've got a person up there that can pick it up for us.
You always need that analog element.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can we watch it do some
No,
of its
absolutely.
tricks?
Yeah, so we can do a rotation of the cube,
Yeah.
and you'll see the all of the faces and the projection move around with it. And then we can show a couple of bits of the content where we manage to provide a lot more depth to just this two-dimensional surface or three-dimensional.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's see.
Yeah. So you'll see as it moves, we have 4 of the infrared buds on every face,
Right.
and you can see where the lines line up to those.
So I'm not just watching one projector create that image, it's multiple projectors stitching this together.
Absolutely. So if you actually looked at some of the projectors around the room, you would see the color change as it moves through.
Oh, fascinating.
so
Because it's not delineated by lines. It's not like 2 projectors are doing one face.
No, absolutely. So we've got them
Wow.
positioned so that we can hit it essentially from every side.
But I
where
also
we are
don't
now-
see any of the projections on the gray.
No, so because we've got the 2 faces out right now, we've basically put a mat in and blocked that
Oh, you
out.
have? Wow,
Yes.
okay.
So normally there would be something in that space as soon as we put the face back in.
Yeah.
But because the cube changes throughout the show, so sometimes that's done with content, and we know that at a point something is going to be missing. But if we
Right.
know a whole face is out, then we can block that one out.
That's really cool. Do you
Yeah.
ever find yourself, when the show's not happening, standing in front of the cube and you're fooled by what it's showing you?
Absolutely.
Oh, good.
There's definitely a couple of bits of the content that do that more than others.
When you're like, is that a real box or a projection of a box?
Yeah, and I think that's an element that the audience really enjoys as well. Like seeing what just appears to be a flat cube,
Yeah.
and it's also coupled with what the performance is going on at the same time. So at the same time that we have performers removing physical elements from it,
Right.
we've got the projection layered over top, so they never know quite what's real and what's not with it.
So I love that. I'm very magic adjacent. I have a lot of magician friends.
Yep.
And one of the things I love about magicians is that they'll show you the same trick twice, but they're not showing you the same trick twice. They're showing to you 2 different methods, and those methods cancel each other out.
Yeah.
I noticed you guys doing stuff like that with this.
Absolutely.
You're doing tricks with this that are impossible, but I realize there must be dozens of people behind the scenes making stuff happen.
There is, and a lot of the time it is performers and technicians inside, so they might be getting cues and stuff. So as much as it looks simple that someone's pulled a box out of the cube, it might actually be being pushed from behind.
Yeah.
And things like that.
You know, there's over the years on Mythbusters, we investigated some things that were really cool, like bloodhounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Working with police, and also snipers. And in both of these cases, what you thought was like, well, the bloodhound is the business end of this, or the sniper is the business end. In each case, those were deep partnerships, right? Like the sniper is nothing without a spotter, and the dog is nothing without the trainer.
Mm-hmm.
And people come to this show and think that it's just these performers doing amazing stuff, but they don't realize that there's a second set of performers in black
No,
doing just as much work behind the scenes.
absolutely. And it's a funny one for our industry in that a lot of the time people know we exist when we haven't done our job correctly. If we've done our job right, people should never know that we're really there.
Yeah.
And there is a kind of magic to that in a way. Like,
Well, and also you are there to the performers, right? You're their partners in this show. You're ever present to them, and I love that sort of hidden dynamic
Yes.
that the audience doesn't know is happening.
yeah, no, like the audience never gets to see that interaction. But I mean, particularly with a show like this, we're on the road all together. It is one big family, and so we're hanging out with them as much as we are with each other.
Can we see some of the other fun stuff? This can do?
Absolutely, yeah. Let's show you some of the content that we've got on there.
Yeah. See, I'm completely fooled by that.
Yeah. So a lot of the content has been created to mimic what is underneath. So this one is simple in that you're seeing the exact lines that we see on all of the containers.
But am I seeing that the light that's moving and spilling onto that corner is actual?
No, so that is projection.
Oh, it is
So there is almost
projection.
like a bit of a heartbeat effect in there. And then, yeah, when you see this one, when all of a sudden everything starts to move.
I'm completely fooled.
Yeah. But at the same time, while this is running, a performer will come and grab a cube out at the same time that it's projected to be removed.
I mean, that's the thing, is that because you have these lighting elements here and I see these hot corners, my brain is just telling me that's totally
Absolutely.
real.
It adds that whole extra dimension to it.
That's
and
awesome.
It's funny seeing it kind of being deconstructed right now because this is in the first half of our show. And then the cube does actually get taken apart later on, but the audience, like, they don't see that one as much, but they've kind of got to see it in this digital world. That's
so cool.
Yeah.
Dude, this is crazy. I want to do this on the ceiling of my house.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are doing that now. It's amazing what you can do with 3D projection for a bit of decoration around the place and mapping.
Occasionally, I would imagine you learn something that this can do that wasn't part of its charge, or some extra ability it has. I would imagine within the company, you and the other people in your position trade notes about the technologies that you're bringing into shows, because I would imagine this is a set of companies that always wants to push each technology to its extent.
Absolutely. Like we do keep an eye on new and emerging technologies and what's out there and try and integrate as much as we can where we can. But
I know you've got the drones, and I've watched that technology blow up in the last 15 years.
And something like that, it's interesting trying to be at the forefront, but at the same time, if you're the first to integrate something, by the time a couple of other people have started to do it, it might be completely changed. So it is trying to keep up with everything as it goes.
I remember calling up one of those first drone operators and asking if I could incorporate it into a touring show. And they're like, we need 3 days of setup for every performance. And I'm like, okay, that's where I'm still a few years away.
And now that's nice and easy. You have them roll out of a rack and they're ready to go.
They all fly amazing.
But we also have cross-pollination between the shows. Right. So I've been with Echo now for about 6 months, but I spent 3 years on another show. And so I bring that knowledge from the other show. Any new staff members we have from outside the company, they also bring other ideas. And so you do get an amalgamation, even though it's a fixed product right now, there's always going to be things to change. But
that's lovely too, from your professional standpoint. It sounds like the company engenders creativity and exploration. So it's not just like you're showing up and pushing buttons, you're part of this creative process.
Absolutely. Like a normal week, we are obviously very focused on shows.
Sure.
But anytime we're not, we're doing maintenance, and we've always got projects of what can be improved. And that might be simply to make our life easier moving from one city to the next. But a lot of it is to improve what the audience gets to experience every night.
That's really cool. All right. Now, dude, this is super cool. So this is the tracking system.
This is our test stick. So this is why this one looks a bit rudimentary. But we use this every night to check that all of our fixtures are tracking. So it'll step through individually and follow this dot. And this is one of the little infrared buds.
So it's actively powered. It's not just a passive device.
Correct. Okay. And so these all will flicker at a slightly different frequency. And those frequencies get assigned an ID. So we can assign that to our different characters and that sort of thing. And actually, your cameras probably right now could see the ones on the cube, but to the audience, they will never notice this.
They just disappear.
If we have a look at it closely, you can just see the faint red, but it is very faint.
I love this so much because I also I can see why you still need follow spot operators, right? They can still do things in a dynamic way that this isn't, but this is so cool.
Yeah, and there are some limitations to the system, but it's also designed so that if the buds get lost at all, if I was to cover this one up, then none of the cameras can see it now and everything's going to fade off. But once it gets seen by the system again, it's going to come back on. But that's also part of why all of our costumes, and I've actually got one here.
Yeah.
So the costumes.
Oh, this one of the clowns.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
And so we can show later we're seeing this moving in the 3D space, but they've just got a couple of buds in the corners there. And as much as anything, that's that if they were say to lie down, that one of the buds is always going to be visible by all of the cameras.
Amazing. So one's on the front, one's on the back, opposite sides.
Yeah. And so any time that the system can see more than one bud, it's basically going to take the 3D point in space between the 2 points, and that's where everything will be focused.
Do you end up putting sensors on every performer or just key performers?
No, just key performers. Okay. So all of our characters in the show are tracked. And then also a couple of the aerial acts. We found that that's the best way to follow them and to get the looks that we're after.
Oh, fascinating.
So some of them have it.
That must have been an interesting rigging thing, putting a sensor on an aerial performer.
Yeah, so that then becomes a mix between rigging and making sure they're happy with what they've got, between us and having the system, and obviously wardrobe and costume and designing it all.
This is more batteries that have to be checked.
Absolutely, yeah. So this is just coming to a pack, and it's the exact same as what I've got on the tracking stick here.
Amazing.
And so before every show, we're going through and swapping all of the batteries, and we have a station out the back where we check that everything's working. But we also have a camera set up so that the performers, as they're coming on stage, can walk past it and see that they are working.
Incredible. So they're also part of the check system.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. So there's your digitals.
Yeah. Chloe's just going to kind of position it for us. So this one we're normally actually watching in the booth.
Right.
But this is purely just for us here to monitor things, that it gives us a viewer into it. And then so we have this screen here, which is just the camera up here on a night vision.
Right.
And so...
Oh, look at how bright those are.
Yeah,
wow.
We see clear as day.
So that's what wow.
Yeah, so the system is seeing that clearly, but well, actually your camera again will probably pick this up better than our eyes will. So the performers can walk past this and treat it kind of like a mirror. Just have a quick look over, make sure that they're okay. And also we have a person here during the show, so we keep an eye, just anytime someone passes, quick security check, make sure that they're all good to go. And then when they actually move out into the space, so the system will start to pick it up. And we have someone walking around, you can see Alfie walking around with the stick that we had before.
Yeah.
So right now I can see that 17 cameras are picking that up. And amongst all of the cameras, there is about a 8-9 millimeter difference that they're seeing. So they're slightly arguing with each other over that. But above a certain amount, that the cameras will just be removed from the equation, because let's say a camera's got bumped a good foot over or something. Then it will just go, hey, there's too much of a discrepancy here. I'm going to ignore what data you're giving me.
Fascinating.
And
so then the camera doesn't become part of a false feedback loop.
Correct. Yeah. So it will allow a certain amount of discrepancy, but then you can see the actual dot of the pole walking around the stage right now.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of other dots. For example, it's seeing all of the ones that we have on the cube. But you can see Alfie walking around, and actually the lights that are following him right now, it is all being shown in the 3D space.
I'm curious, are there like industry magazines in which you guys do interviews about the technologies you're using, or is it mostly like as the crews use these technologies and matriculate out into the world, other people learn some of your...
There aren't. There are a few out there, but as much as anything, it's a bit of word of mouth.
Yeah.
It is still such a small industry that we know a lot of people in concert work and in circus and in theatre. So often we learn things on the likes of Instagram and just finding out what people are doing.
So you'll see something cool and you'll call up a mate and you'll be like, do you know about this? Yeah,
yeah,
okay, fill
absolutely.
me in.
Yeah, I mean, I had one of the performers come up to me one day and ask, hey, am I allowed to tell my friend what those lights are that you had around the stage? And I was like, absolutely. And she had a friend that was a lighting designer, and he wanted to know, and we're like, hey, that's something we're absolutely happy to share that kind of knowledge around. But yeah.
That's super awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's great having things like this, because it does give a look into this world behind the scenes.
I would never have imagined. That's just totally crazy. You can literally watch a 3D representation of what's actually happening.
Yeah. And so the data that this system is producing is feeding back not only into the projection to keep everything on the cube, but it also provides feedback to our lighting console.
Which also means, I would imagine, if you had a big issue during the show, you could go back and review all of that data and hone in.
Yes and no. We do have the ability to record this data.
Yeah.
We don't do it on a regular basis because those files just end up too large to deal with on a regular basis. But at times, if we are trying to really hone in a particular cue, we can actually record a scene and play back the data. And you wouldn't see Alfie up here walking around the stage, but you would see the dot of where he had been moving in that 3D space.
All right. I feel like we're done talking. We should tell Alfie he can stop wandering around.
Hey, Alfie, you're good.
So when you have a technology like this, you're also watching how their competitors are doing what they do, looking for the most amount of, I would imagine, the most amount of flexibility.
Absolutely. Like there are multiple different providers out there starting to do this sort of technology, and each bring their own kind of systems to the market. And sometimes ours does have a lot of flexibility in that we can program and build things ourselves in the background. So sometimes there are elements that we see exist in other systems that don't in ours, but we might be able to kind of get a workaround that gets us close to that.
So might you guys do your own like Arduino circuitry for sensing technology, or do you really try and leave that to other vendors who are making it robust?
For the most part, other vendors, but there are things that we can do with various algorithms and stuff. So I was mentioning before about the prediction of the performers to try and get different motions, and we can also set boundaries at the edge of the stage so that as a performer walks over a boundary, they'll begin to fade out.
So it's not just that you're programming if-thens, you're programming when this happens, you can do this or you can do that.
And we're also looking at things like velocity. So like follow spotting, it's Circus, we have a lot of dynamic elements.
Right, they're happening too fast to sense, but it could happen fast enough that it knows it's happening and accommodate?
Correct. So it might be that we can make things increase their diameter so that we have a bit more leeway if a performer is moving quickly. And there's a lot that we can do with it, but all time.
Do you guys run into frequency, what do you call it? Like my sound guys over the years have had to change their microphones a bunch of times as the FCC changes its codes, and you guys perform all over the world. There must be interesting interference issues that show up.
There is. So at least not with this. For the infrared stuff, we're okay, but we do use a bit of wireless data for some of our, we have lights in some of the costumes, a couple of the small set elements. Thankfully here in North America, not too bad, but as we've traveled around, we do sometimes have issues with that.
Yeah.
And it's often we find if there's a cell tower on the corner of the site.
And
the annoying thing is that we might check everything at preset and it's perfectly fine, but then you put 2,500 cell phones in the room and all of a sudden you have a lot of issues come showtime. I
had a gag in one of my touring shows in which we had to ask the audience to put their phones on airplane mode in order for the gag to work.
Yeah. I also had a site where we were right next door to the rescue helicopter. Anytime that they flew out, they actually sent out a jamming signal. So all of a sudden, everything was gone.
No.
And I mean, there's no predicting for that one.
That's amazing. So in a sense, like the Cirque is this compendium of knowledge of the different laws all over the world.
Absolutely.
How to deal with them.
Anytime we go to a site, we do a city report afterwards. And that can be everything from the wireless issues to how different permitting departments were,
right.
ground conditions, everything. So for future shows, we have that information so that we can look back and go in with a little bit of preparedness to know what we're going into.
Amazing. Tod, thank you so much.
Hey, no worries at all.
Really thrilling.
Yeah.
So cool. This is amazing.